Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that we may be about to get a new entrant into the wonderful, wacky world of foldable smartphones, because Vivo, a company you may have not heard very much about. This is a Chinese company who's really made a ton of progress with their hardware as of late, and their camera hardware as of late, and camera software has gotten exceptionally good, to the point that DxOMark, which we're going to look at some images from DxOMark, calls one of their recent flagships one of the best camera phones around. Well, that very same company is about to unveil a folding smartphone in the same vein as the Samsung Z Fold line. So let's take a look quickly here at the teaser trailer for this device, because I think there's actually quite a bit here to be unveiled. This thing's going to be debuted on April 11th. Like I said, we do have a teaser trailer here first, and I've got this on GSM Arena. Let's see if I can zoom in here a bit. So as we start off here, zooming across the cover display, and things look quite good. Keep in mind, this is a render. So as we go over this, some things may look a little bit better than it should look in real life. Now, one thing you do see very quickly here is that appears to be a curved display. And when I say appears to be, I think it's quite definitely a curved display here coming over that edge. And that is very interesting. But then as we zoom out further, you will see that that is the cover display. So that's another thing that we need to stop and talk about. On the Z devices, on the Fold devices, this cover display is obviously not curved at all. It is a flat display. Now, some people are going to prefer that flat display over a curved one, but what Vivo is doing here, I think very clearly, is a curved cover display. Now, we don't really know just yet how wide or how narrow that cover display is, because we don't get a good look at it, but we do know pretty safely now that it is curved. You see a power button and a volume rocker there as we zoom out further, and the tablet begins to open with a blinding brightness, and then it snaps shut just in time for us to see something that I love seeing on any smartphone. It appears to be a notification slider. You can slide that thing down and silence your phone. I loved it on the OnePlus phones. I loved it on BlackBerry devices. Great thing. Love seeing that. And I think that's just about all you're going to see here, other than the date March 11th. Vivo X Fold is the name of the device. And as we said, don't have a long time to wait before we get the full unveiling of this thing. Now, we have seen some leaks about this device earlier on, about what it might look like. So we're going to look at another article here from GSM Arena, where this appears to be the Vivo X Fold, sort of in a case, as you see here, where they're trying to disguise what it is, but you can see what it is. And in this image, you can see there should be a crease visible here, and there really isn't one. So it appears that in this image, if this is truly the Vivo X Fold, that Vivo might be going with technology more similar to what Oppo has done with the Find N, or what Moto did with the Moto Razr, where instead of having sort of one single crease down the middle, one rather deep crevasse down the middle, they're sort of spreading the crease out and doing it in three smaller creases, which makes it much more difficult to see. And if you look at it, I don't see a crease there. And it is clear that it is meant to be folding this way and not the other way, because you can see your hinges there and there. You can also see here that you have a hole punch selfie camera, which I am totally fine with. There's a big reason I do not own the Z Fold 3, and it is because I don't want the under display camera. It looks worse and it hurts my eyes. It's got this weird screen door effect, and it's all flickery on light backgrounds, and it makes my eyes want to bleed. I'm photosensitive. You're probably not bothered by it, but I would much rather have this hole punch than have the alternative. And I would also wonder, from this image, can we glean anything about the dimensions of this device? And I think that we can, because if we look at that and then I hold up my Z Fold side by side, right, about as close as I can I scale this thing to be about a similar size? Does it look like the split screen on the Vivo looks to be a bit wider than it is on my Z Fold? And I think that it is. I think it's slightly wider. And I think if you think about it like this, you imagine, so on the Fold, if you take either side of this and then you cut it in half, you pretty much have the cover display, right? Because that's just how that's going to work. So if you take that there, this image, and you cut this in half, does that look wider to you than the cover display on the Z Fold? I think it does. So I think that this is going to not quite be the Oppo Find N, which is super short and wide. God, I love that thing. I love that form factor. I love that so much. I want this thing so bad. It's not quite that, right? Because it's definitely taller, but I think it's kind of a middle ground between the two. I think that this is a little bit wider. And then I mentioned that we're going to talk about the cameras. Now, obviously, with this thing, we don't really know specifically what the cameras are going to be, but there are some rumors. If I pull up this Twitter thread here from Ben Geskin, who I referenced just the other day, he references a few leaks that look a bit like this. So this is apparently what the Vivo X Fold is going to look like. And I think, again, here, that looks like a slightly wider cover display than that. So if this lines up, it looks a bit like what we just saw. We do have a triple camera setup, and actually, no, a quad core, because I just for a moment thought that was the flash. No, that's the flash. That is a periscope camera. So let's move over here, and we can see this Zeiss imaging, and that is a square lens, which is, yes, a periscope camera, which if you don't know what that is, the light enters this front lens, hits a mirror, and goes horizontally or in another direction into the body of the phone, where it is then passed through subsequent lenses. Most people don't realize that our cameras on our phones, we think that there's like one lens in here per camera. There's not. There's like 6, 7, 8 lenses per to get a clear image, and that stuff needs depth. Or if you're doing a actual like 5x optical zoom, you need a bunch of lenses to magnify, and that's too much depth. So they turn it long ways and go in the body. That is really, really cool, and apparently that's going to be a thing on the X Fold. And if we think about how the Z Folds are, the cameras are pretty good. It's a set of triple 12 megapixels. It's good. This is probably going to be quite a bit better. We have some leaks of some internals here, and then, of course, the image that we just showed. But let's back up here and see what he wrote here, rather. Quad camera setup with periscope zoom, 2 in-display fingerprint scanners, cover and main display. That is pretty cool as well. And then a hole punch on the outer and on the inner, which we've already seen and kind of addressed. So let's look now at the ExoMark. Now, this is not obviously for the same phone, okay? This is just another Vivo phone, but I want you guys to kind of just see what Vivo is capable of in terms of their camera setup. So again, this is not one-to-one. I'm not telling you this is what the X Fold is going to be capable of, but this is what Vivo is capable of. So if they go all out with this thing, this is what they might be able to do. So this is something shot on their primary sensor, and this is a great image. And if we zoom in here, there's a lot of detail being held in here with this image. In terms of portrait mode, again, this is a really solid image. Vivo has come such a long way with their photography. Night mode is even quite solid now. I think that's a really solid night mode image. The wide angle also is very detailed, which is something that you lose a lot of the time with most wide angle lenses. I think that this looks quite good. And now looking at the telephoto zoom, this is an image here on an iPhone 13 Pro Max and how blurry that is. And then we look at the same shot on the Vivo, it is much, much better because you have that periscope zoom. So if we do get something like that on this device, on the Vivo X Fold, I think it's going to be a huge step up in terms, in particular, in terms of cameras on foldable devices, because they've never been that phenomenal. They're always kind of secondary. It's like, yeah, it's got a pretty okay camera, but you're not buying it for the camera. You're buying it because it can do this. But just imagine for a second a phone that can open up and have a giant, beautiful viewfinder and have a world-class top-tier camera setup. I am very intrigued to see how the Vivo X Fold turns out. Bad news is it's probably going to be a China-only variant. You may be able to import one similarly to the Oppo Find N, but just in general, pushing the tech forward is always good for everybody. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end of today's video. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friend.